All right, today we're diving deep into an incredible and maybe lesser-known story from the ancient epic, the Mahabharata. It's all about a hero on a massive quest who runs into a pretty primal problem, a hunger so powerful, so all-consuming, that it's about to ruin everything. So let's just jump right into the middle of the crisis with this quote from our hero, Garuda. I mean, can you even imagine? Eating thousands of beings and still feeling completely starved. This isn't your everyday, I'm feeling a bit peckish kind of hunger. This is a divine affliction, a cosmic black hole in his stomach that's threatening a mission of huge importance.
So what is this big mission all about? Well, Garuda, who's the king of birds, has this really noble goal. He's sworn to free his mother, Vinita, from being enslaved by the Nagas, the serpent beings. To pull this off, he has to steal the Amrita, the nectar of immortality, straight from the heavens. But here's the thing. You can't exactly go up against the gods on an empty stomach, and this crippling hunger is a serious roadblock.
At his wit's end, Garuda flies to his dad, the great sage Kashyapa, and just lays it all out. He needs a meal, a really big one, that will give him the strength to challenge the gods. And Kashyapa's response is, well, it's pretty weird. He doesn't point him to some divine feast. Instead, he tells him to go to a sacred lake nearby where something really bizarre is unfolding. Garuda looks down into the lake and there it is, a gigantic elephant and an equally massive tortoise, just thrashing in the water, locked in this brutal, seemingly endless fight. And you can tell right away this isn't just a random animal brawl. Kashyapa reveals that their hatred is ancient, that it was born from a bitter conflict way back in a previous life.
To really explain what's going on, Kashyapa takes Garuda and us on a little trip back in time. He tells the story of two human brothers. And these weren't just any guys, they were great rishis, wise men. But they had a quarrel so profound, so bitter, that it actually transcended their human lives and cursed them to become these giant animals. It's a timeless warning, right? About how a simple dispute over wealth can totally poison your soul.
Okay, so let's meet these brothers. First, you've got Vibhavasu, the elder. He was wise, but boy, did he have a short fuse. He believed their family wealth should stay whole as a shared resource. But his younger brother, Supritika, was completely consumed with this idea of splitting up the inheritance, of carving out his own piece. And this one single disagreement, well, it became the seed of their total destruction.
Vibhavasu pleaded with his brother. He argued that splitting up their inheritance was a fool's game. He was like, listen, this is only going to lead to jealousy and fighting and will attract all the wrong kinds of people who will just exploit us. He saw it so clearly that dividing their wealth wouldn't lead to freedom, but to their mutual downfall. So this wasn't just about money, it was about the very fabric of their family.
But Supritika just wouldn't listen. He was blinded by his desire, and he pushed until Vibhavasu's fiery temper finally just exploded. In a moment of pure rage, he cursed his younger brother, condemning him to become a giant, powerful, but ultimately mindless elephant.
And just as quickly, Supritika, filled with his own hot fury, cursed his brother right back. Oh yeah? Well, you'll become a tortoise and live in the water forever. Their mutual anger didn't just ruin their relationship, it literally reshaped their very existence into forms that would keep their conflict going for eternity. And so back we are at the sacred lake, and the whole scene finally makes perfect sense. The elephant and the tortoise are the cursed brothers. All that human greed has just festered over time into this pure animalistic rage, trapping them in a cycle of violence fueled by a hatred that just never ends.
And the scale of these creatures it's just mythological. A yojana is an ancient unit of distance, something like 8 miles. So this elephant, the cursed Supritika, stands 6 yojanas tall. That's almost 50 miles high. The text actually describes him as a literal moving mountain.
The tortoise, Vibhavasu, is just as massive. He might not be as tall, but his shell has a circumference of 10 yojans. That's about 80 miles around. He's described as looking like a bank of clouds floating in the water. These aren't just animals. They are forces of nature, pure embodiments of ancient rage. Their battle is absolutely cataclysmic. The elephant curls its trunk and charges, stamping its massive feet and sending huge waves across the lake. The tortoise rises up to meet the challenge, and they just crash together. You can just imagine their roars echoing as they butt and strike each other, turning the sacred water into a chaotic storm. In this, Kashyapa tells his son,
This is the meal that will finally satisfy your hunger. Eat both of them, he says. They're so bent on killing each other. He gives Garuda his blessing, not just to eat, but to absorb the immense energy of this ancient conflict and use it to fuel his mission to get the Amrita.
And Garuda doesn't hesitate for a second. With a power described as being swift as the mind, he just descends. In one claw, he snatches the mountain-like elephant, in the other, the cloud-like tortoise, and with his impossible meal secured, he launches himself right back into the sky.
So now he's looking for a place to eat, right? He spots this divine tree with a single branch stretching 100 yojanas. That's an 800-mile-long branch. But when the mountain-sized hero, carrying his titanic meal, lands on this colossal bough, even it can't bear the weight. With a sound like a clap of thunder, the branch just snaps right off. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question. Garuda has finally found a meal big enough to quench his divine hunger, and it's a meal literally made of greed and rage. But his own sheer power is so immense that even the world of gods and divine trees can barely contain him. So what happens when a noble quest is fueled by consuming the very essence of an ancient conflict? And where in the world does a hero land to finish a feast like this one?